Welcome back to the NutriSave podcast. It is Saturday. It is college football. I'll be on the couch for the first half of the day and then over in, unfortunately, not the greatest stadium in the country. I am a man of my word. I take pride and honor in that. Pretlow, I know you're watching this. I'm very sorry. Virginia Tech is better than South Carolina in football. Lane Stadium is better than Williams-Brice. And Enter Sandman is better than Sandstorm. That just broke my heart. I do not believe in any of that, but that
Sandman is better than Sandstorm. I'm sorry.
ain't no damn way. Ain't no fucking way. That is bullshit, and you know it. Just wait till you come here. Just wait till you come here for a night game. There is no better atmosphere in the country than Williams-Brice Stadium.
I'll have the sound on for the game tonight. Watch.
And even for it only being 80,000 people, it's unbelievable. Okay, kicking it right off. We ain't got a lot of time. Joey, big game in the Big Ten today. Not your favorite team. In fact, probably your least favorite team. Probably mine too. I hate Michigan. Number 11 USC coming into the Big House. What's your big kind of? I don't want to say takeaway because we aren't taking anything away from it yet. But what's your big, I guess, going into this?
3:30 kickoff in the Big House. You know, we're all hyped up for Texas. Texas absolutely ran through the Wolverines. They're going to have to double down on running the ball. Obviously, they put Alex Orji in because Davis Warren loves throwing to the other team too much. So there's your first problem. And, you know, I give Jerome more credit. They trust in running the ball, and that's what they're going to have to do. It's Jerome Moore is going to make this game. It's my guys versus your guys. How physical are you going to be? Because that's how we won a national championship last year. That's what it's going to have to be. USC showed a lot more physicality than we've seen from Lincoln Riley defenses in the past. So we're going to find out how physical USC actually is. This is a great test for USC, especially a team that out of nowhere kind of has Big Ten championship hopes. You know, even if they don't make the Big Ten championship, they want to try to at least get in the playoffs, which is very possible. So this is a great test for USC. You're the Wolverines. You're still trying to hang in that playoff race. Be a huge wave for you after you looked awful against Texas in week 2. I'm leaning towards USC in this game. We'll get the bets later, but I love the under this game. And it's going to be very interesting how much the Wolverines try to heat up Miller Moss. Try to put some pressure on him, confuse him. They've got guys in the secondary, but they also don't have as much up front. So how much are they going to have to heat Miller Moss up to get him off of his rhythm and more? Your thoughts on that? And then
I think this is SoCal's game to lose. I haven't, from what I've seen from Michigan so far, I don't think they're going to be able to have enough skill on offense to be able to move the ball well enough on offense to be able to keep up with a lot of these Lincoln Riley offenses we've seen. USC, the other one, the fake one, the California one. Great win over LSU in week 1. We've seen them; they're battle tested already. And then you come and look at this Michigan team, this offense that the Wolverines have put forward. I talked about before. They've been abysmal. They can't move the ball. You look at that Texas game; it was just they were too one-dimensional and they were too predictable. I think if you're going to want to have a shot at winning in the Big House, you're going to need to not only be able to, I don't want to say disguise your plays more, which is kind of ironic that we're saying that after what they've done the past couple of years, but you're going to be able to have Orji be able to come into the game and pass effectively as opposed to him coming in the game and just running, or him coming into the game and I don't want to say not running a play action, but be able to utilize him for more than just the run game. Because when they were playing Texas, Orji came in, it was pretty much just strictly run. Texas would load the box, and it went nowhere. Now you talk about Davis Warren having problems throwing to the other team. I just don't think you can fix that. Given It's a step off from McCarthy, but I just don't think that they lost a lot of their major weapons they had for that national championship. They lost their coaching staff. I just think they lost. I don't want to say they lost the physicality. They're just not. They're just not the team they were last year. Completely different team. I think the expectations coming in were too high, and I think this is going to be an extremely disappointing season overall for the Wolverines.
I don't think that's crazy. I don't think they're gonna pass the ball that much. They might end this game with like 8 passes. Like Orchie might only throw the ball like 8 times. They're going to double and triple down on running the ball, and they're going to say, all right, USC, you want to be physical? You want to run this Big Ten style of play? All right, it's my guys versus your guys. And the Wolverines are a good team up front. Like, let's not mistake that. They're still an elite team when it comes to being up front. I think taking Donovan Edwards, like you saw last week, out of that starting role and putting, I think his name's Cedric Mullins, into that starting role and having Donovan Edwards being the change-up back is going to play really well for them. So we'll see. We'll see with what happens today. I like USC in this game, and I love the under in this game.
So I the only way I could see the over or the under not cashing would be if USC starts running the ball early, gets Michigan to commit, and then just lights them up with a West Coast offense.
I can see that, but I think Miller Moss is going to make a couple mistakes. I would not be surprised if you see a Will Johnson interception, at least one in this game.
See, but 43.5 is kind of low, though.
But all the Wolverines are going to do is run the ball. They're not passing. That's what I'm telling you. There's going to be 34, and they're going to keep the ball out of USC's hands. They have to. Because if this game turns into even attempts to turn into a shootout, the Wolverines are going to lose. They can't keep up on offense. They can't score. They legitimately cannot score. The only way that the Wolverines are going to win this game is if their guys are a lot better up front. Colson Loveland has a hell of a game on the couple of opportunities catching the ball that he's going to get. And if they probably need some help from the refs too at this point, but just I don't see a way where like there's games more than like 21-17 at most.
Funny you mentioned needing help from the refs. You know, we'll just go ahead. Great segment into it. Now you want to talk about people getting hoed over. I lost that bet on what was quite possibly the worst call I've ever seen in college. The worst, probably 5 or 6 calls. You had the phantom offensive pass interference that it just didn't happen. That weak bullshit call. The offensive false start there. It was like 3rd and 2, fourth quarter, with like about 3.5 minutes left. That was also again another. No one on the line moved.
I've seen him flinch his hand. He
Oh,
flinched.
his hand.
He flinched very slightly.
His hand went from here to here. That's not a false.
Sometimes they're gonna call that though.
It wasn't the
I've seen it
center
called
either.
100 times.
That
I get it as a fan. I would be pissed about it too if it cost it up like my team a game. So everyone roots for somebody, but they're gonna call it.
That's not a false start though.
Anytime someone moves, they're gonna call it. I've seen it 100 times.
I don't know, but the worst of them all was I believe they went back and called it roughing the passer. Although who knows what the guy's mic went out in the middle of the thing. But I don't know how you can call it roughing the passer if he's no longer the passer. I mean, you nullified
SEC
a
rep.
100-yard. You nullified a 100-yard pick six that would have altered the course of the game. Certainly, South Carolina would have won it. 6 minutes. I don't want to say certainly. I've seen them blow a 10-point plus lead in under 3 minutes. But with the way that game was going, South Carolina, that call should not. It wasn't a roughing the passer. He goes, blocks him in the front of the chest. His head was turned, but blocked him in the front of the chest with open hands.
I was watching that game. Like I don't
It
disagree with you.
it
The
was
SEC officiating is bad in general though.
the
Every time there's SEC refs calling like a somewhat big game, they blow it. Every time. For both sides. Like I'm not saying
and
like one
don't
team
get
gets hoed over more than the other. It's the SEC refs are just genuinely bad. Which you think because they're by far the best conference in football. You wouldn't think
and
that would happen.
it sucks to have this level of play tainted by such poor officiating. For what I mean, a lot of these guys in the SEC will likely go on and play in the NFL. I mean,
Well, what do you
there's
think's
just
gonna happen during the Alabama Georgia game? Someone's gonna get screwed over.
yeah. I mean, you even saw it in the SEC
Even
championship.
Tennessee and Oklahoma tonight.
But I mean, you go back to the SEC championship last year. That it was like a 40 or 50 yard pass. He kind of like rolled that ball. That was not a catch, and they ruled it a catch. Didn't go back and review it. Um, so I do think Georgia kind of got hoed over a little bit in the SEC championship. It was a great game. Otherwise, I was
Oh
on the edge
yeah.
of my seat the whole time. It was great. I certainly think Georgia would have ran the table in this CFP. I mean, that team last year was just they were so good. Um,
I don't know. As much as I hate them, I don't think anyone was beating the Wolverines.
I think that Georgia team could have beat Michigan last year by 10 plus.
I think that's it. I think that is a little bit of a stretch there, bud. All right, let's get to Utah, Oklahoma State. This one, the spread's like a half point. The odds are even for like both teams, like minus 120, plus 100. Cam Rising's supposed to play. I don't. This game very much interests me because Oklahoma State's been able to win games with being bad at running the ball. Because you got Heisman hopeful and Ollie Gordon. He hasn't played great, but teams are just loading the box against Oklahoma State. And they're forcing Allen Bowman to beat them. Because Allen Bowman couldn't beat him last year. And so you're going to be watching this game. It's probably going to be low scoring because I think both these teams are just going to want to run the ball. I think Utah's going to be able to stop the run without even having to load the box. I think Utah is by far a more physical team than Oklahoma State. I think they're going to be able to stop the run. And if it's me, if I'm Kyle Whittingham, I'm not loading the box to start the game. If I can stop the run without having to load the box, I'm going to do that and let Allen Bowman try to beat me while I still have 7 back. So I think the physicality for Utah is going to lead them in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if Utah beats them by a touchdown. I just don't think Allen Bowman's going to be able to do it. And one of the biggest things for me is, yeah, you get Cam Rising back, and that's great. But Utah's so used to not having Cam Rising playing the last couple of years that it doesn't really change. Like the backups are already like, all right, Cam's not playing. I got this. I'm in. We're good. So I don't think it changes the game plan too much for Utah. So even if Cam does get hurt or he's not effective, I think he had a hand injury last week that he sat for. I don't think that will change the game plan too much. I think I don't think Allen Bowman's going to be able to play the way he has against his other competition, like even against Arkansas. I don't think he's going to be able to play like that and be able to pass all over them like he has. What are your thoughts?
First off, we saw what was it? Was it Monday Night Football between Bears and Texans?
That was Sunday night.
Sunday night. I think the average age of the quarterback in that, I believe, was 22 years old. The two quarterbacks in this game between Allen Bowman and Cam Rising, I believe, is like 24. I think one of them is
They're
24.
49 years old combined. Between the Colts and the Bears on Sunday, it's 44.
Yeah, I think he's.
This is the Life Alert Bowl.
Yeah. These are the you need to go ahead and get a job in finance bowl.
You need to go ahead and use your college degree that you got like 3 years ago bowl.
The You've been a grad student longer than you're an actual student, Bull.
Yeah,
But okay, besides the point, like I could see this being both a high scoring and a low scoring affair. I mean, you saw it with Arkansas, and Arkansas is a team I think built for a shootout this year, between Oklahoma State and Arkansas. But then also, I think you talked about it being very like load the box and stop the run, and it's just going to be like kind of almost what you'd expect like a Big Ten football game to be. Kind of just butt heads and just go man on man and just make the other force their hand and make them make a mistake. And so I could see it go both ways. When I'm betting today, I'm probably going to stay away from this.
I'm
Um,
too.
just because I think I can see an easy path where it could be both. Um, I mean, we've seen Oklahoma State ability to put up points. We've seen Utah's ability to put up points. We've also seen both of their abilities to not put up points per se. And so we will see how it all kind of plays out. With it being in Oklahoma State, though, I think that lends a massive home field advantage. I do have Utah on upset alert as they are the higher ranked team. I think the spread is like Utah -1 right now. It's been bouncing back and forth between like Oklahoma State minus a half point or Utah minus a point. It's been bouncing around in that like range for the past couple hours. We've got it pulled up and we're watching the lines kind of as they move. Um, but
I
yeah,
got I got Oklahoma State -1.5 right now. The
okay,
over
so
under at 54. If I had to take
yeah,
a bet on this game, it would be the under.
yeah. But then I
If
also
I
wouldn't
had
want
to.
that to I wouldn't want that to be the one that kills it though.
Yeah, I'm staying away from this game because I really don't know. I think, especially how is Utah's offense going to look with Cam Rising against a team with a pulse? That's my biggest question. If you don't have anything else on that, that Tennessee and Oklahoma showdown tonight, I don't think
This is
anyone can stop Tennessee.
I mean, it will certainly be interesting because you look at Brent Venables and the defenses he's been able to produce. Um, Given I'm very skeptical of Oklahoma this year, first year coming in the SEC, and it's just I don't want to say there's no real bye weeks, um, but just having to play such high competition compared to what you were playing in the Big 12 every single week. I think a lot of their teams move like they still have Alabama and Georgia and Kentucky. I don't want to say it's like a trap game, but that I think that one will be closer than more people expect it to be. Um, so it's not the hardest schedule that you could have had in the SEC. I mean, Florida's got a
Not like
gauntlet left.
Florida's schedule.
Yeah, but um, I think that was Tennessee that's got those games up. Oklahoma, I think, does have quite the. I'm pulling up their schedule. Yeah, they
I think
play.
before I left, I had Tennessee going 10-2.
Um, yeah, because they have. I think they just have Bama and Georgia, and then those are the only two in Kentucky. But Oklahoma plays out of their remaining schedule. They play Texas, who's the number one, Tennessee, who's at 6, Bama's at 4, Ole Miss is 5, and Missouri is 7.
8-4 at best.
I mean, again,
I think Missouri's a pretender. I don't think Missouri's all that great. I haven't
I,
seen Missouri
I
hasn't impressed me this year.
I definitely think they're like a top 15 team. I don't think they're national title contending or
I don't think they're
SEC
competing
championship
for the
contending.
playoffs this year.
Um, but you look at that and kind of going back to you play such high level of competition every week. I think you're going to rack up some injuries. I think you're going to start to drop some of these games where before you're like, oh, our expectation coming into the SEC was 10-2, 9-3. Um, I think it very possibly could be a 8-4, 7-5 kind of season for Oklahoma. But we'll see how Venables is able to scheme this. No, I do very much agree with you. I don't think anyone's stopping this Tennessee offense. I think they're very much like the Saints offense. They're just going to light it up every single week.
Well, and here's my thing is I think we remember how good that I think it was 2020, 2021 Tennessee team was with Hendon Hooker and all them. The one that almost made the playoffs before Hendon got hurt.
You know who sunk that?
Great. And that
That
contributed to
was
y'all 7-5 season that year.
eight and
Um,
8-4.
that's what we achieved for in South Carolina. But anyway, I think this team's a lot. I think this team's better than that team. And like, my biggest question in this game is, Oklahoma is going to get caught in base. How much is Tennessee going to hurt Oklahoma when they do catch them on base? Because they're going super fast type of offense, going, and you can't stunt, you can't disguise, you can't do any of that when you're going that fast. So how often can Oklahoma get the stops when Tennessee catches them in base? And at that point, it's an easy numbers game for Nico, which is why Nico's played so well. It's an easy numbers game. You're just doing quick math. And I just don't see another advantage for Oklahoma other than being in Norman. I think it's the only advantage Oklahoma has in this game because this is a different type of Oklahoma team where their defense is better than their offense. I don't think that's that controversial of a take. And Jackson Arnold's first big game, we'll see. I think this is going to be the type of game where Oklahoma's going to get a couple of big stops early. They're going to be feeling it. The crowd's going to get wild. And then you're going to look up at halftime. It's going to be 28-6. I think it's going to be that type of game. I love Tennessee in this game. And another point I want to make is it's not like the old Tennessee teams where they're going super fast. You can't afford to only get a first down and then go out because then your defense is back on. Or you can't afford to go 3 and out because you're going so fast. Tennessee's got depth in their front seven now on their defense. They've got a lot more depth than they did back in 2021. So I think that lends a huge advantage to Tennessee. They've got guys on defense now, which is what Josh needed to get over the hump, to get over maybe even the Alabama and Georgia hump again. And I think this is the first test in the road. I think this is a great opportunity for Nico to show a game. It doesn't matter whether it's in Tennessee or wherever. It doesn't matter if it's in Norman, Tennessee, wherever. It's a great opportunity for Nico. It's great reps for him. And I think Tennessee might run away with this one.
I agree with you, and I will get to your best bets here in a minute. But I think I look at it, and I'm looking at what they've been able to do so far. Given, I don't want to say they haven't faced too stiff a competition. They absolutely dismantled a decent NC State team. I don't want to say they're bad. I don't want to say they were good. They're kind of middle of the pack. Not the NC State defenses we've seen of past, but then again, the way that Nico has been able to throw the ball, I mean, he is so precise. I mean, these guys are getting hit in the numbers in stride, down the field, crossing route. I mean, it is unbelievable how accurate he is. I mean, it is it baffles me. I haven't seen someone this accurate especially at the college level. I mean, he's like what, a true freshman, not true freshman, but like redshirt freshman.
I believe so.
And so to see this level of skill coming from him at this kind of stage in his game, I think the folks in Rocky Top have a very, very positive outlook on the next couple of years. But even this year, I think with the way their schedule is built, you have a chance to go 11-1 or 12-0 if you can win at Georgia in that Week 10 frame, or it's mid-November. I don't know if it's Week 10 with bye weeks and whatnot. But I think if you beat Georgia in Georgia, I think Tennessee is my pick for the national champion. It's just with what their offense is doing. I don't think, and if I think they're going to be able to do it to Bama in Knoxville too. I'm very skeptical of this Bama team, especially after what happened with USF again. So it'll be interesting to see how Tennessee moves forward. I think Tennessee does the same thing they did to NC State. it may be 28-6 at halftime, but I think come the end of the game, it's going to be 56 something, high 50s to maybe 17. Yeah, it's just the stadium in Norman is going to be empty by the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I don't know if I see I don't know if I see it being that bad. I think Oklahoma is going to be able to string a little bit more together on offense. I think the defense might be able to force Nico into making some mistakes early. Maybe even get a pick six like NC State got against them, that type of thing. But I
I
don't think
just
this is going to be particularly. I, I don't see this. I'm already going to take Tennessee minus 6.5. I love that bet. I don't think this is going to be much closer than that though.
I mean, I might take like an alternate point line. We'll see. We'll get into that.
I don't think
Um,
you'd be crazy to take Tennessee minus 5.5. I don't
yeah,
think you'd be crazy at all.
free money right there. Um, moving on, moving forward. Earlier this season, they talked about. I guess they released the bowl schedule. And this pissed me off. I can't state how angry this makes me. The Army Navy game, by far, is the best football game of the year. That's my opinion. You can argue with that all you want. Army Navy is the greatest football game of the year. It's also given, hey, it's not the best quality football, but you want to talk about teams that can run the ball. You might see a total of 4 passes in an entire Army Navy game. And so the fact that they have now gone and with this new 12-team college football playoff, gone and put 2 bowl games on the same day as that's no, you got to put it back. That is Army Navy stands alone on its own weekend. It is America's game. It is the pageantry, everything that goes with it. It deserves to be its own game. It is the greatest rivalry in all of sports. I will not argue that one. Army Navy and across everything. You don't see the level of hatred yet love between two fan bases. They both have the same goal outside of the football field, but the second or outside of any playing field, but the second you step on that field, that I mean they are willing to go to the very end to get that win and get a star over the other team. Um, and so I don't think that there's no way that you go and put 2 bowl. I'm completely fine. You go and put those 2 bowl games on the Sunday after or the Friday before. You leave that Saturday strictly for Army Navy. So what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's crazy, and I'm not going to sit here and act like that either of these teams are good at running the ball or like we see the schedule throughout the year. Neither of these teams are good football teams, but that doesn't matter. You know, you got the Jets flying over the stadium before the game. Typically a 3:30 kickoff on CBS, and it's not it like even though we're sitting there and watching a football game, it's not about football. It's really not. And I'm in the military now, so I get this a little bit more. Like we're all brothers. We're like the game is the weekend. That weekend is normally meant to honor the men and even the women. There's men on the football field and even the men and women in the stands that are about to go fight and serve our country. It's not about football. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes a bunch of money for the schools, but to watch the football game. But it's not about football. So, and to take away from that, take away the money from these service academies and whatever, doing something stupid like this, I don't like it. You know, it is what it is. They already tried to ruin college football. Mel Kiper's trying to ruin football. I mean, everyone's trying to ruin football at this point, which we'll talk about another day. But just it's not like my big thing is it's not about football. I think you're gonna go make that weekend about football. Like you said, Friday or Sunday, sure, whatever. But like the weekend's about those men and women that are about to go serve our country, not about the, not about like who's running the ball. like, or who's playing that day. It doesn't really matter. We're there to honor those people, and the fact that we're gonna schedule another game for 3:30 kickoff on that day is blasphemous. I'll just say that.
You mentioned the flyover, and again, it solidified number one, the best entry in all of college sports is they combined run between Army and Navy. They don't happen at the same time. Army has its own flyover, Navy has its own flyover, but it is timed perfectly to the point when the jets fly over, the F-18s fly over for Navy, Navy runs out of the tunnel as the jets fly over. And when the Chinooks and the Blackhawks fly over for Army, Army runs out of the tunnel. You cannot tell me that that is not the coolest entrance in all of college sports. Tennessee runs through the T. That's one of my favorites. It's unique. It's something that's um, I don't want to say very Tennessee, but like it makes sense for a Tennessee stadium and for them to do that. For South Carolina to run out to 2001 through the band and everything. Again, that's awesome. But there's nothing like running out of the tunnel as there's jets flying over, running through the mids and through the cadets. And that it's unbeaten. It's unparalleled. There's nothing anywhere close to that level of pageantry, that that sense of patriotism that you get from not only being there but watching it on TV. It is unbelievable. And so college football as a whole, the people who make the schedule, the powers that be, need to look at this and need to put money aside for a minute because everything has seemingly become about money. There are some things that you can sacrifice the money for to leave things as they were. If it's not broke, don't fix it. The Army Navy game is one that is certainly not broke and certainly does not need fixing. It is. I've been a number of times. It is the greatest thing I've ever witnessed. I highly recommend if anyone ever gets the chance to go and watch the Army Navy and go and witness it, go and witness the passion from their student sections. Every cadet, every midshipman goes. They bus them up and down to the games early in the morning, and it's hundreds of buses, it's a whole caravan, and then being able to watch the walk on where you have all 4,000 mids, all 4,000 cadets fully formed on the field. It's just that, again, that sense of patriotism, that sense of the pageantry that goes with that game. It deserves to be a standalone game. So the powers that be need to fix that. If you're watching this, do not be surprised if there is a petition that comes out of this podcast trying to get the powers that be to change it back or move that game to move the Camellia Camellia Bowl in the Cricket Celebration Bowl. Hey, those it's two bowl games that have some importance. I understand. Well, some importance. They have importance to the fans that will be participating in. But move that to the Friday or the Sunday. Give that Saturday to the Army Navy game. That's it. That's all. That's like end of debate there. I just had to get that off my chest. That's been bothering me for God since they released it. I mean, it's unbelievable that someone would fathom doing that. So
I think that might have got released while it's gone. No, because I
I,
don't think I don't think remember there being a fuss about that beforehand.
that may have been the case. I remember when they did it at first, I was like, but I mean now Navy's 3-0.
I think
Correction, I
they're
believe
both
that.
3-0.
No, I think Navy's 2-0. They had a bye week in there somewhere. But still, they're hosting Memphis this week in Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. Massive game. I've got Memphis on the upset alert here.
Memphis is going to blow them out. I don't even think it's going to be close.
All I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna say anything. So, um, moving on.
Anything.
Best bets. Joey's best bets for college football this weekend. You want to fire them away?
Trying to find out the Navy thing, but all right. Best bets for the weekend. I got 10 of them that I like. Probably none of them are going to hit because I did bad last night, but it's all right. It's a minor setback for a major comeback. Yeah, got a full slate today. First one, Clemson minus 17.5 against NC State. This game's I think Clemson's still pissed off about the way they got embarrassed by Georgia. I don't think this game's going to be particularly close. I don't even think you'd be crazy to bet it up to minus 20 and a half, minus 21 and a half. Do not think you'd be crazy at all because NC State's not a good football team. Um, that's all I got on that one. Louisville and Georgia Tech under 57 and a half. I want to hear what your thoughts on this game are. Braun's defense has been very good, very stellar throughout his tenure there. And I think the Arkansas Auburn over under was at 56 and a half or 58 and a half, something like that. I don't understand how this game's over under is so high. I think this is going to be like a 24-17 game, maybe a 24-20, but I don't think this game's going to come close to 57 and a half.
Yeah, I could agree. I think this is going to be a defensive battle. I'll see who's the first to make a defensive mistake. Um, I couldn't agree with you more. I could very well see it being even like a 27-10 in favor of Louisville. Again, I I don't think it's a likely chance of happening, but we've already seen it happen this year. But Georgia Tech, what they did with Florida State to start the season shocked a lot of people. But then I also think that, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again. So
I don't think you'd be crazy to parlay the under and then under 57 and a half, and then I'm probably into this Georgia Tech plus 10 and a half because I think that's what the line's at. I don't think you'd be crazy to do that at all, or even get Georgia Tech at 14 plus 14 and a half or 13 and a half. I don't think you'd be crazy at all. It'd be a nice little plus money bet on that.
so
Go ahead.
I was gonna say if you want to keep going.
LSU minus 21 and a half against UCLA minus 115. UCLA is a very bad team. I don't think UCLA is going to win more than 4 games this year at best. I think they're 2-1 right now. We remember last time that UCLA played LSU. Charbonnet took that game over. Charbonnet, I think there was another running back. Charbonnet took that game over. Brian Kelly's not going to – I think it's going to be a revenge game for Brian Kelly. And LSU's defense did not look good last week against South Carolina. I think LSU is going to walk in there and stomp UCLA.
I think the LSU defensive line is something that needs, if you're an LSU fan, if you're in that LSU building with their football program, that defensive line needs a lot of help, and especially those linebackers. But again, you talked about this South Carolina offense and the ability to use motion to move the defense around, confuse them, and then be able to attack a weak point or a weak link. I think they definitely exploited the LSU defensive line, but then at times the defensive line was able to get to Sellers and Robbie Ashford. So
I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you think about this because I think you noticed this with a couple of teams where it looks like the defensive coordinators when they scheme these games out. I think you could see this a little bit with USC's defense the last couple of years, where you give the defense so much to think about. Where you're telling them, all right, we're going to do this if this happens, and you're going to do that if that happens. And you giving these guys so much to think about that they're not even playing as hard at that point. I think that's what LSU does with Harold Perkins and a lot of their front seven. I think they give them so much to think about that you don't even know, like they're not even playing at that point. They're spending so much time thinking that their reaction is that much slower. I want to hear what you're thinking about that. I think LSU's got a huge problem with that on defense. I think that's why their defense looked so bad last year because they've got athletes. You don't have an athlete problem at LSU. You don't. That's why I think LSU's defense looked so bad last year, and it doesn't look much better this year.
I agree that it's not. I don't want to say it's not simple. It's just it's too complex for them to be able to go and do anything. And I mean, you look at the South Carolina defense. It's pretty much the front four, front three, kind of what we kind of ran with. It's just go get the quarterback. Um, and then you leave Debo kind of as a QB spy, and then everyone else drop back into coverage. Occasionally throw in like a corner blitz, but I mean that's pretty much our entire defensive scheme. It's extremely simple, extremely dumbed down. I don't want to say dumbed down, but it's very simple. It's very simplified. Then you look at the LSU defense, and they had Harold Perkins as a star position. He was just kind of floating around doing all these different things. You're putting two. I mean, these are college kids. They're 19 to 23 years old. They they're trying to play a hard sport at a very high level, and you're trying to put that much more on their plate. It's you're past the point of like optimization, and you're now falling back to a much less uh, optimal performance like zone. So I think they definitely need to dumb it down, simplify it, and you might be able to see a little bit more success. I just think their defensive line I think is too shallow. They don't have enough depth there in order to go and compete with a lot of the top schools in the SEC.
And I don't think they're gonna have any problem with UCLA today anyway. But
Yeah, no, the UCLA is garbage.
this problem for later in the year when they're fully in SEC play. I don't think they're gonna have a problem with UCLA today. I still like them minus 21.5. USC and the Wolverines. I already said this. I love the under at 43.5. At minus 105. Also I like USC minus 4.5. I like it, but I don't think it's a lock. So I don't think it's a bad bet. I would not be surprised if USC runs away with that game just because I don't think the Wolverines can move the offense ball. But TCU, I forget who TCU plays. I think they play SMU. I did not write it down when I think it's SMU. But I like TCU minus 2.5. I don't think SMU's it is SMU. SMU can keep up with them. Their offense, I like them minus 2.5, minus 115. Cal money line playing against Florida State. I don't think that game's going to be particular. I don't think this is gonna. What is DJU gonna do? I mean, Cal absolutely stomped Auburn. I think Auburn's a better team than Florida State is. I I don't know. I think Mike Norvell. If Mike Norvell loses this game, he's definitely getting fired by the end of the year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think Mike Norvell is 100% fired if they lose this game, which wouldn't surprise me. But what are your thoughts, real quick?
I see Cal winning. The Florida State defense is just it's so bad. I mean, they can't stop anything. I mean, they look like the border patrol at the southern border. I mean, even border patrol is able to at least stop something. I mean, they're working their hardest. Florida State, I mean, they look like Swiss cheese. I mean, everything's just getting through. They look like a chain link fence trying to stop a flood. It's not effective. They're so like, and then you look at what they lost last year. They lost all their major leadership pieces, all of their major um, kind of big defensive guys that went on to the league. They transferred out, um, and now it's kind of the bones are left. All the meat's gone, and so they just haven't found a way to gel. But you look at, I think if they lose this game, 0-12 is very much in reach, and even with that, I think if you lose this game, like Mike Norvell's losing the locker room. Like those guys are giving up. You in the age of the transfer portal, these guys have no loyalty to the school. It's, hey, how can I get my best route to the league, or how can I get paid the best? And so obviously they want to win, and when you're not winning, you're going to lose the support of the locker room. It's going to fall apart. It's going to be an ugly season.
I think it's already going to be an ugly season. Also, just the last little note on that. Don't think you'd be crazy to take Cal at least minus 2.5. Florida State's minus 2.5 right now. I'm shocked they're favored in this game. I think the only reason they are is because it's at Florida State. But I don't think you'd be crazy to take Cal minus 2.5 or minus 3.5. Miami minus 16.5. I love. I think it's at 17. It's at 17 right now. Bought it down to half point just to give me the benefit of the hook. Love Miami minus 16.5. I think they're gonna roll South Florida. It's in Florida anyway too, so I think they're going to roll them. Cam Ward looks really good. Um, I think Miami's. I think Miami's a little bit better than people give them credit for. Number 18 in the nation. Um, I also I do want to ask you real quick how you feel about this game and the over under at 64.5. I kind of like
For
the over.
Miami.
Miami, South Florida.
Um, I don't know about the over being, what do you say, 64 and a half?
I think it's a lot, but I just want to know how you feel about it.
I like that South Florida defense, given, I mean, they held Bama to um, like 17 points for most of the game. So, given once that last touchdown went in, they kind of just gave up. I mean, that game was out of reach. So, um, I would take the under.
Okay. I
I
just don't
wouldn't.
know how much South Florida is going to be able to score. Because
I'm
I think
not putting.
Miami can probably put up at least 35,
Yeah,
35, 40.
and yeah. I mean, they've got some good offense, but I don't think they're going to go out and be able to carry like. I don't think they're going to be able to go out and go score 50 to the point where South Florida could score 14 and it would hit. You know what I mean? Like
Makes sense.
I don't think Miami's going to have enough time in the game to be able to do that. I think South Florida, I think they'll be able to eliminate a lot of the massive explosive plays that allow for Miami to have these 5, 6 play drives that go for a minute. Um, I think you're going to see a little bit longer drive, given they might have one drive where it's like it's just a bomb downfield. But I, I think the under is kind of looking like it might be a better bet. I probably won't throw that in my parlay for today, but that's
Neither
just
will
me.
I. Just curious. Um, Tennessee minus 6.5. I we already talked about this. I don't think Oklahoma is going to be able to keep up on offense. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this Tennessee Oklahoma game too, just because of how fast Tennessee moves. If you don't have anything else on that, we'll move on.
Yeah. Did you want to go to picks of the week?
I still got two more on my
Oh,
thing.
yeah. Go to Colorado then.
Colorado minus 3.5 plus 115. I think the line's at two right now. I don't think there's a lot of teams that Colorado's even with up front, and it's just based off of how their skill players. How are my skill players better than yours? I think Colorado might roll Baylor tonight, especially with them being in Boulder. And then Oregon State minus 3.5. Purdue's awful. I think Oregon State's gonna have something they want to prove after getting smacked around by Oregon last week, being little brothered last week. I think Oregon State's gonna. I Purdue, not a good football team. They look the same as they did last year. So those are my best bets. Now that I said them on air, they probably won't hit, but all right. And hopefully, we're gonna make some money this weekend.
Here are my picks for the week. I've got Navy moneyline versus Memphis in Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. That place is going to be rocking. Um,
What
I
is
like the
that? Plus 220.
yeah.
Plus 220.
I've already hammered Navy moneyline today. So hey, we're praying the sports betting gods have us on this one. Um, Clemson minus 18 against NC State. In, um, in Clemson, I just after watching the Tennessee game, I don't know how much faith I have in NC State. I think Clemson's going for their 800th program like win. So I think they'll have no issue getting that. I've got UVA to cover -3.5 against Coastal Carolina. Cal money line versus Florida. We're gonna be bet buddies there.
Bad
Again,
bud.
I just don't think Florida State has any gas in the tank, and we're already at week 4, so I think it's going to be a rough one. I think it's going to be a long season for the fans in Tallahassee. Um, I've got the University of Buffalo over NIU ending this little Cinderella run. Actually, well, I had them over that in like my upsets, but I got the over 42.5. Both teams have a great offense. Um, so I think we're in for some good action later today. I think that's a 3:30 game. Um, Arkansas money line versus Auburn. I don't think Hake Brown's going to be able to get it done. Taylon Green has been impressive in what the Arkansas offense has been able to run. Um, so I think they'll be able to put up a good, probably 40 burger on this Auburn team. I believe it's in Jordan Hare too.
Auburn's defense is so unathletic. Like this is the I'm not a huge Auburn football watcher, but this is the most unathletic Auburn defense I've ever seen.
In
Like,
this is an extremely athletic Arkansas offense. It's a very versatile. I mean, you talk about team or offenses that are 3-dimensional. I mean, they will beat you with a run, a pass, a triple option kind of looking plays. So I think
and this is a huge game for Sam Pittman. If they can get the show back on the road, I, I think this is a huge game for Sam Pittman. So if they lose this game, he might be out at the end of this year.
I've got another upset brewing in Lane Stadium. I've got Rutgers over Virginia Tech. Um, I believe that money line for Rutgers right now is like plus 150. So good value bet there. And then I've got Oklahoma State over Utah. We talked about this earlier. It's in Oklahoma State. So I just think the home field advantage is going to be a
Really,
bigger
you're going against me on this one.
a bigger factor than what Cam Rising coming back will be. So
You're going
we'll,
against me on this one.
we'll see who's right at the end of the day. So
You want to put a little wager on this one?
no,
No.
I already had to break my heart earlier today. So
Man.
but
Just
hey,
like God and everyone know that you're too scared to make a wager on that game. That's wild.
I mean after being screwed over by refs last weekend, and having to admit that not that I believe that in any sort of form, but having to
Yes,
say
you
that
do. You have
I
to.
do not believe that.
You
I don't
have
believe
to.
that at all.
You
That
told
is
God and
not
everybody that Virginia Tech's a better football team than South Carolina.
we will see next year. First game of the year when South Carolina absolutely dog wipes Virginia Tech in Atlanta. That game,
Where's that game at?
I'm saying it's in the Mercedes-Benz. I
Is
don't
it?
know if theirs is the Superdome or what it is, but it's in
I
Atlanta.
think it is.
Um,
All right.
I'm calling it right now. South Carolina will drop a 50 burger on Virginia Tech in week 1.
I'll take. I'm not playing those odds. I'll take South Carolina, especially because Virginia Tech still can't recruit. So I'll take South Carolina on that one.
So
But
we'll see how that goes, especially if we can rebuild our defense. I think there's going to be a lot of our defensive guys that go to the league after this year. So, well, that's all that we have for today. Little later than we had anticipated, little technical difficulties, if you will. We had originally planned on recording this last night, and some external factors played into the equation. So
your external factors.
yeah, we'll just leave it at that. We will see you guys next week. At some point, we don't know when. We're just kind of playing it by ear. Joey goes back to not back to boot
I go
camp.
back to being owned by the government on Tuesday, so we'll play that one by ear.
So we may get another episode in breaking down the NFL and college football action from week 3 and 4, respectively. Have a good one. Make some money this weekend. We will see you guys later.
Football watching.